Hello and welcome to the Empower Hour. This is our weekly broadcast that we do every single week, something that we do to help ex Jehovah Witnesses move forward with their lives. Today we're going to be talking about escaping or moving away or avoiding escapisms. What do I mean by escapisms? I mean the things that we use to numb the feelings that we feel. When we leave the religion so many times, there's just so much hurt, so much pain, so much emptiness. It's very, very difficult for us to deal with. We don't know how to deal with it. Our lives were set up a particular way, and then it's no longer working. It's no longer there. We have a community, a ready made community. We were brought up thinking a certain way, processing things a certain way, looking at lives through a certain lens, and now it no longer works. We're in the world that's moving 100 miles an hour. We feel like we're standing still. And again, so much loss, so much pain. Our loved ones shunning us, losing our community, losing our belief system. There's so much there that many times we want to not feel what we're feeling. Some of us are dealing with the loss of families. A lot of people end up getting divorced because of their change of belief. That goes away. Everything for some people goes away. Your life is starting absolutely at ground zero. And you find yourself not remodeling your life. It's a new build. You're destroying what was and you're starting from brick number one. And a lot of times we lose our way and we try to find ways to cope. Sometimes we cope the wrong way. Sometimes we use escapisms to fill the void. There's a tremendous void when we leave the religion. I mean, it's such a big part of who we are. And then we take this core of who we are, and there's a tremendous void. So, what fills the void? What makes life worth living? What gives us meaning? There's so many people that get depressed and get so down and out because everything that was is no more. And then we get caught in escapisms because we feel like we got to keep moving. We got to numb the pain. I know I definitely went through this. I went through a time of feeling so much pain because of what was no longer in my life. So much pain. It was awful. How do I fill the void? For me, I just kept moving. I started going out all the time. I was going to nightclubs and bars and all those things all the time just to fill the void, just to go somewhere where I felt some kind of acceptance. I jumped on dating sites. I was going on a date every other night. Ridiculous. I mean, I just brought so much into my life. And at first it felt worthy. It felt like, oh, this is fun. I was married for close to 20 years. I just get to date like crazy. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Get to go out with all these girls. So much fun, I thought. Or drinking, just going out drinking, numbing myself constantly. My life started spinning like this, just in a blur of alcohol, a blur of fun, just a blur. In a temporary sense, it seemed fun. While I'm in it, it seemed fun. But I was spinning. But the problem was, I was spinning in a downward spiral. My life was getting worse, not better. I was making no progress. I was just numbing pain. You see, a lot of times when we don't know who we are, when a religion defines us, and we don't know who we are, the last person we want to spend time with is ourselves. I didn't like to spend time with me because I didn't know who I was. The religion defined me. Now it's not there. The community defined me. Now it's not there. Now I got to be with me. Who is me? Who I was a chameleon. I would be who I needed to be depending who was in front of me. I learned to be a chameleon as a very young man, as a child. I learned to be a chameleon. I was one way in front of witnesses. I was one way at school. I was one way when I started working. I was a chameleon. There was no real me. So when there's no real you, the last person you want to spend time with is you. So I kept it moving. I was out every other night. I was out doing something. I would start drinking at a bar at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, get done at 9 at night, sometimes later, always in a fog, life not going well. I'd be on these dating apps and my phone would be buzzing every 10 minutes with some girl buzzing me, trying to have a conversation or make arrangement for a date. Craziness. My life was just a blur. And in the moment, I always thought I was enjoying it. But my life was spiraling downhill. And I needed that to stop. You see, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you handle it and what you do about it. I wasn't doing anything about it. I was not growing at all. I was coping. You see, when you spend so much time coping, years later, you will still blame the Jehovah Witnesses when you had years to fix your life. I was not taking responsibility for my life. Life on planet Earth is not fair for anybody. I'm not special because I was raised a Jehovah Witness. Everybody's got things to deal with. How do you deal with it? I was dealing with it the wrong way. I was keeping my life a blur. I was drinking way too much alcohol, being out way too much, getting way too little sleep, just moving and moving and moving and moving. And I wasn't growing at all. And at some point I said, this has to stop. I've got to stop coping. I've got to get to know myself. I've got to get real with myself. I need to know where I am. Your GPS needs to know where you are so that when you set a destination, it could take you there. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know where I was going. So what if you set a GPS that doesn't know where you are and doesn't know where you're going? It's going to get you nowhere. And you'll just waste years. You'll just waste time. And you'll keep blaming your past for your problems when you are a major contributor to your own problems if you're not growing. And at some point I said, this needs to stop. I started realizing that most of my bad decisions, not most, just about all of them, were when I was partying, drinking alcohol. I make pretty good decisions if I'm not drinking, right? I was drinking way too much, out way too much, sleeping way too little. Just running, because I don't want to feel the pain. Sometimes you need to feel it and you need to figure out what you're going to do about it. And this is different for different people. For me, it was just, that lifestyle that was out of control. For other people, it could be something as simple as serial dating. How many people come out of the religion and you feel like you need to hold on to somebody? So you just date person after person after person because you can't be alone. You don't enjoy your own company. Now watch what happens when you get into bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship. That affects you horribly. That does not add to your life. You got to get comfortable with you. You got to get comfortable with your time alone. Some people, it could be gambling. Some people, it could be all kinds of things that aren't really good for you. Could be drugs, where you get caught up in addictions that ruin your life. All kinds of things can be addictions. Alcohol could be an addiction. Sex could be an addiction. Gambling could be an addiction. What is an addiction? An addiction is when you do something that you know is detrimental to your life. You know it's detrimental to your life. In the way that you're doing it, it's detrimental to your life, but you do it anyway. You can't stop. You do it in spite of. That's an addiction. Now, none of this is judgment. As long as we learn from the path we were on, none of this is judgment. I don't judge anybody. I did it. I did a lot of stuff. As long as we learn. Some people can learn from hearing from others, and this is why we do this. Other people are the type to touch the stove. You gotta touch the stove. But if you touch the stove, you get burnt and learn from it. Now, there are other things that you can do that are forms of escapisms that are good for you. Maybe you really get into taking care of your body. You're at the gym constantly. That's not a bad kind of escapism. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You get incredibly healthy. So, yes, work on the things, focus on the things that matter in life. And the pillars of life are mind, body, and spirit. So take the time to work on those three things. Your mind. If you're going to have a kind of escapism, read, take in knowledge, watch videos on YouTube that actually feed the mind, that enable you to grow. Get caught up in that. That's not going to hurt you. Read books. See, you start appreciating your time alone when you can do things that you couldn't do if somebody was chatting at you constantly. See, I enjoyed my time alone today. I don't need to run from myself. Last night was Saturday night, and I spent just a great night alone watching some YouTube videos that was teaching me some stuff, some things about the mind. I wanted to go really deep on that subject. And it's Saturday night, and I live in Las Vegas, and I stayed my butt at home and enjoyed every second of it. You see, because I enjoy my own company today. I don't need to keep running. Las Vegas has got everything going on. I could just party my butt off here. I've been calmer since I've been here for about a decade. I've been calmer here than I was, where I lived before because I am in touch with myself. I'm good with me, and I don't need to keep running. So last night I fed the mind. When I get done today, later in probably about 2 hours, I'll be at the gym. I'm feeding the body at the gym. I take care of my physical self. I got up this morning and I did some meditation. I did some meditation last night. Time alone, quiet, just me and my thoughts, just centering myself. Took care of the spiritual aspect. Mind, body, and spirit. I like to be alone today. I used to hate it. I had to keep running. You see, but when you're spending time on things that are fulfilling you, filling you up, taking you to another level, when you get to know yourself, the void gets filled. There's no longer a void. I don't feel a void anymore at all. I don't have the drama of, you know, 10, 12 ladies messaging me with their, I mean, I was messed up. All I could attract is messed up people. See, you're always going to attract what you are. So why was I even focused on that? I just gotten divorced. My life was a mess. Everything in my life was a mess. And I'm out there talking to ladies constantly. Now, what kind of ladies want me? I'm messed up. A messed up woman. Well, have 10 of them message you. 10 messed up people messaging you constantly because they find you attractive. You see, when you're messed up, when your head's not right, you'll have a propensity to want to help other people that are messed up because you want to deal with you. And guess what? They're trying to do the same thing. This person that's incomplete and got all this, has not, is in a bad season of life. Let's put it that way. This person that's in a bad season of life is looking to help somebody else because they don't want to deal with their stuff. And you're looking to do the same. That's why people of a similar vibration attract each other. See, I didn't need to be doing that. I needed to work on me. I needed to focus on me instead of bringing more drama into my life. I needed to focus on me. I didn't need to be waking up with a hangover because I was out to 4 in the morning. That doesn't help me. You see, In life, you can live one or two different ways. When you're on your game, when you're on your game in life, you're present, you're clear, and at the end of your day, you're already focused on tomorrow. You already start planning out tomorrow. Sometimes I even lay the clothes out that I'm going to wear tomorrow. I'm bringing tomorrow into today. That's called a head start. I'm bringing tomorrow. I'm so focused that I'm bringing tomorrow into today. I already know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Imagine doing that for a year straight, where you bring tomorrow into today. That's a head start on everybody else. I'm already into tomorrow, and it's 8:30 the night before. Or you can live this way. You can go and party your butt off, stay out to 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and you bring yesterday into today. When you wake up and you're hungover, you brought yesterday into today. When your head is working at 60% because you're fuzzy because you drank too much, you're bringing yesterday into today, and you keep falling further and further behind in life. Some people, it's not about going out, they're just drinking wine at home because they want to numb themselves. And you're just drinking that wine, and you can't stand your clear head alone, so you got to make that mind fuzzy. And every night you drink, half a bottle of wine, and you wake up and you're not 100%. And some people have been doing that for so long they don't know what 100% is, because running at 60% is their normal. They have no idea what they're missing out on. They have no idea what capacity is really in them because they're numb all the time. And when I was in that cycle, it would be about, I don't know, it was afternoon till I felt decent, right? Because I'm fuzzy all morning long. And by 3 o'clock, I'm at the bar again. 60% was my normal. I didn't even know what 100 was. But now I'm at 100 almost all the time. No judgment. I just know the difference. I just feel in control of my life. I feel in control of my decisions. I don't make decisions based on trying to numb something. I don't make decisions based on how I feel. I make my decisions consciously. I make my decisions with intention today. I say this a lot. You may have heard me say this before, but you live one or two different ways. You live with intention or you live in reaction. When you live with intention, you are clear about where you are. You don't lie to yourself about where your starting point is. You know exactly where you are. And then you get a vision for where you're going. You get a clear vision for where you're going. The vision is so clear it's as if it's already happened. It's so clear. And when you got these points, where I am, where I'm going, you got those two things, then your GPS system kicks in. And your mind starts to take you to your destination. You start to manifest the life that you've been desiring. Magical things begin to happen because you are aware of these two things, where you are and where you're going. And when you're aware of those two things, life becomes magical. You're living with intention. You are creating the life you desire. You're not responding to life. When you live in reaction, you respond to life. You don't create anything. You're always responding. Oh, I can't believe this happened. Oh my gosh, can you believe what that person said about me? Oh my God, I'm so bummed that this fell out. Oh my, you're always reacting. You're always behind the eight ball. You're not creating anything. And you need a clear mind to create. If life feels like you're swimming upstream constantly, then you really have to analyze your life. Analyze what you're doing in your life. Analyze who you're allowing into your life. because life should not feel like you're swimming upstream all the time. The way to live life is to go downstream. You swim downstream. It should not be such a struggle. You got to get to like you. Like you. Why would I numb myself constantly if I like me? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. Now imagine if you are with somebody in a relationship with somebody and that person was always numb, always drunk. If that person was not in a clear state of mind, you wouldn't enjoy their company. Like, where's the person that I chose to be with? I didn't sign up for this drunken person. I didn't sign up for this drugged out person. I didn't sign up for this other personality. Where are you? If you were sober, you wouldn't like that. You wouldn't appreciate that. Then why would you do that to yourself? Why would you cheat yourself of your real self? See, when we're numbing ourselves, that means that we are probably lacking a degree of self love and self acceptance. Because when we love ourselves, we want to be present with ourselves. When we love ourselves, we love our own company. We like ourselves. Today, I like me. I like being with me. It's a wonderful feeling. Okay? And this is something you didn't have as a Jehovah Witness. This is just something you've got to learn as you go along. It's something you got to learn now. If you're not feeling, you got to learn it now because you weren't taught that. The witnesses kept you so busy, it kept you from yourself. So you never knew yourself. You were always so busy. You had this ready-made community to hang out with whenever you wanted to. Right? If you didn't really enjoy your own company as a witness, you go to the meeting, you just invite a couple people over. Next thing you know, you got 10 people at your house. Anytime you wanted to. Anytime you wanted to, you could have this community surrounding you. Your identity was that of a Jehovah Witness, so you didn't even know what you were missing. Now you've got to learn to enjoy you. You got to look and discover how awesome and amazing you are. You got to enjoy that time that you have to read, to grow, to attain knowledge, to become the best version of you. Again, mind, body, and spirit, the best version of you. Ooh, there's no better person to spend time with than you when you start liking and appreciating you. A walk in nature all by yourself is wonderful. And for those of you in relationships, it's wonderful. If you got a good relationship, there's nothing better than that. But still honor your autonomy. Honor your autonomy. Honor who you are, even in the midst of that relationship, and allow the person to respect that other person's autonomy too. Let them honor their autonomy too. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So try to avoid escapisms. Again, not saying that anything's wrong with any of it. Understand what is dessert and understand what is the main course. Some things are dessert in life. You want to be able to have a good time, let your hair down, have a good time. But don't make that the main course. It's dessert. Oh, I love a good time. I still like going out from time to time, but it's dessert. When that was my main course, my life was really out of whack. Don't feel the need to be the opposite of what you were as a witness. What I mean by that, I mean, there were some good things that you learned. I try to hold on to the things that can serve me. At first, I think a lot of us have a propensity to do everything the opposite, to be the extreme opposite. You might feel like the whole witness thing was never really in alignment with who you were, so you go the opposite. But guess what? The opposite's not in alignment either. That's just the pendulum going to the other extreme. That's not who you are either. So Along your journey of life, you might find that you learn some worthy things as a witness. Oh, I love the respect for the opposite sex that I got from being a witness. I try to hold on to some of that, not in the stringent way they had it, but I can be around the opposite sex and be platonic a lot easier than a lot of people. I don't have to always have an agenda like a lot of the world does. I love that. I love the fact that I don't have a potty mouth. Not to say I don't ever cuss, but I don't have a potty mouth. It's not like I gotta watch myself when I'm in a business context. I don't have to catch myself. Oop, did I say that? Oops, I'm sorry. Oop, did I offend you? It's easy for me because I didn't grow up with a potty mouth, so I don't try to change that. Cool with it. No judgment if you're doing something else, but I just appreciate some of the things that I was raised with, and I try to keep the good things. Right? I don't feel like I got to push against everything to be the anti Jehovah Witness. I try to hold on to the things that um, were a benefit to me. There was a time where I rebelled, but I go, no, some of this stuff actually is not bad. And I'll hold on to a version of it. Maybe not the witness version, but I'll hold on to a version of it. Get to know you. The real you is not the opposite of being a Jehovah Witness. It's not being a Jehovah Witness. It's little pieces of your entire life experience put together. Some of it from that time in your life, some of it from not, some of it from your personal growth today. But it's a mixture of all these different things that make you who you are today. And whoever that is just fine. Whoever that is will continue to evolve. Okay, so let's bring our panel up. This should be an interesting conversation. So today we got Cindy, Gary, Dean, and Janelle. Who'd like to start us off with a share? Janelle.
Yeah, I really do appreciate the point about, escapism, trying to run away, particularly when, the family is an issue. And a few weeks ago, I had a scenario that happened, and I actually had to, hopefully it's just temporary, block my family because they just crossed the boundaries. What's very sensitive for me is respect and dignity, and that was not incorporated. So, and that did affect me, way more than I expected to. And I remember after that, or rather, yeah, before that, before making that decision, I just woke up in the middle of the night and my mind just kind of like was trying to transition to like into an addiction. And it was like I can just choose anything and just go crazy with it. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to handle this family thing on another level. So, because in my mind, what really, really irks me for some reason is, when someone else's poor viewpoint or whatever challenges or traumas or problems they have through in their life that they mismanage for it to have a mastery over mine. I have nothing to do with somebody else's issues. So I'm not going to let you mold and have a mastery over my life. I'm it. I'm it. I'm the master. So, I had to create that strong boundary because, usually with the addiction, you kind of running away from something that you don't want to be in. And you're trying to run to something that feels good or comfort, safety. So, and I had that feeling for that, escape. So I had to, start asking myself, well, where is it that I want to run to? What contributes to my well-being that will make me feel alive because they try to make me feel dead or empty. What I need to do to make myself feel fulfilled. So I started a series of progress actions. I started with chakra therapy. I booked sessions with Rodney. He asked me the question of what is that I enjoy doing as a hobby, and I couldn't answer it. It took me some days and I forgot I love partner dance. I love ballroom dancing. So I booked a class and I've always been scared of the camera. So I did a photo shoot I just did like back to back, kind of like an overdose of feeling alive. Doing an overdose of what contributes to my well being. And I felt amazing. And I'm a different, I just feel so different than how I did before I started taking progress actions with intention. I just a firm believer not falling, don't make yourself passive into other people's issues. You have a lot of power within you. Be your master. Own your life. You can design your life. There's more power in you than you realize.
What I love about what you said is you took control of this situation. Um, the knee jerk response was to let's run to something that will numb me, and then you said no. Let me find something that I love. Let me number one, we have to stop validating them, right? Because that's a no-win situation, right? If we're looking at ourselves through their eyes and their lens, we will always be the failure. We'll never win. If we validate the way they see us, we will always feel like a failure, and then you'll want to numb that. But you said, no, let me do something I love. Right. So the ballroom dancing and doing the photo shoot. You see, one of the biggest parts is progress.
Don't hear you. There's feedback.
Can you hear me now? Can everybody else hear me?
Now I could. It dropped out for a second. Yeah.
Okay. One of the biggest parts of happiness is progress. Progress at anything. When we are involved in escapism, it's just a numbing in the present moment. We can feel real good in the present moment, but there's no progress, right? So if it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be sex, and in the moment, it's like a shot in the arm, but there's no progress, right? When I think about when I used to run and go out all the time and do all that stuff, my memory, it's like one long night, however long I did that. It's like one long night. There's nothing special about any of it. But you said, let me take these classes, ballroom dancing, right? So as you make progress in that, even though it's not something that's changing the world or it's something that you just love, as you make progress, you'll feel good. That's a spark of happiness. Wherever we make progress, you're doing something you love, you're doing something you're passionate about, you love it, and you will feel good. That progress will make you feel good, and it will address some of what you're letting go. So, with your family, what you're saying is, I'm letting go. Expectation, I'm letting go of any power you have over me. I'm letting go. You can still love them, but I'm letting go and I'm going toward the things I love in life. And as you engage more in the things you love, guess what? You'll discover more things you love
Yes.
because you're on that road.
Yeah.
Okay. Just it's the same thing when you're doing the things that aren't good for you. Okay. You can start off with one thing, but guess what? On that road, you'll discover more things that destroy you. It won't be one thing. It'll be the next and the next. It just keeps getting deeper. Same thing when you're going toward what you want. You keep discovering more of yourself, more of your light. One way you're discovering more of your darkness. One way you're discovering more of your light. Thank you for the share. Love it. Awesome. Next, Gary.
Yeah, the things that don't help and in fact hurt are all external. They have nothing to do with our internal self. We're not working on ourselves by drinking alcohol to an excess because we couldn't do it before and get away with it, or engaging in risky sex or drug abuse, or even being a workaholic, a true workaholic that does nothing but work. Those are external things. They're never going to help us heal. The things that you mentioned, like exercise, going to the gym, going for long walks, Well, you might say that's external because it's a gym, but you're working on your physical health, getting sleep, getting a good exercise, eating good foods. It's all about your physical health, which affects your emotional and mental health. So the real difference between that and these addictive kind of things is that they're all external. They're never going to help you. I think there are probably maybe two categories of external things that don't help, and one is the things that really, really hurt, like addictions, alcohol, that you're destroying yourself. And then there are things that are like kind of a placebo. And I'll just to mention a few examples, not to be critical of anybody that engages in these things, but like, tarot cards or psychic readings and things like that. Some people believe in that, okay, but it's really kind of a placebo in the sense that it's not really helping you work on yourself, at least the way I see it anyway. But it's not going to cause harm like we believe when we're JWs that we're invoking the demons, so we don't have to worry about it. But anything that's really going to truly help you is something that is internal. It's you're really working on yourself and not just masking the pain with drugs or excessive gambling and things like that. It's the difference between external and internal.
Yeah. So working on yourself is never a bad thing, regardless if it's your mind, whether it's your body, whether it's whatever you call spirituality in this time in your life, this season of your life. It's never a bad thing. It's just a better version of you, and everything is frequency and vibration. And when you work on your physical self or your mental self, you actually become live life at a higher frequency, and life becomes easier, and you start swimming downstream. Is that things you don't have to worry about? I mean, when your physical health is on point, that's one thing that becomes less of a worry. For some people, you're actually moving the clock backwards, just taking care of yourself. So those things, everything internal, whatever has to do with making you better, does start from inside, because it all starts in your mind anyway. All of it. It's a mental discipline that you've got to use to do any of those things. So working on yourself will always make your life better, regardless of what area that is. Okay. Next. Cindy?
I remember when I first, left the organization as a teenager around 18 or 19 years old, going into my 20s. I really wasn't participating in life. I wasn't living life. I was reacting to life because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a lot of self-worth. I didn't know how to fit into this new world that has opened up to me. And I knew that being in the Jehovah's Witness organization wasn't in alignment with who I was. But I didn't understand the world, and I didn't understand myself. So I started hanging out with anybody and everything that just occupied my time, because I didn't know what it was like to be a non-Jehovah's Witness. So I found myself in situations or in places or drinking, going out to ladies' nights and hanging out with people that were really not in alignment with who I was either. But I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't want to sit in silence because it scared me. I didn't think I would ever have the right answers myself, because I had always believed, based on the conditioning that I had, that I didn't know. I always had to look to somebody else for the answers. I had to look to my dad or the elders or the literature to tell me, because I didn't know for myself. I wasn't worthy enough to have the answers myself. And it became so frustrating. I had so much anger and so much resentment toward the organization, and so much lack of self-esteem, that just reacting and doing stuff became so frustrating, because I knew that wasn't really me either, but I knew I didn't want to go back. And I continued down this road, frustrating myself and becoming so lost that eventually I attempted suicide. And really, I knew I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to get the answers. And so I think by starting therapy, that was my first step away from escapism and finding out who I was. So I started to figure out who I was, but then another form of escapism for me was I started to play roles. I didn't start, hanging out with people again where I didn't want to be, but I started to fill roles. I became an employee and I tried to be the best employee. I became a wife and a mother. And so I started to fill those roles, but I still hadn't taken the time to figure out who I was. So I had a couple of failed marriages because I went into them not knowing who I was. It wasn't really until I was a lot older, and I met Rodney too, and I had already been out of the organization over 20 years, and I started to learn what it meant to find out who I was. And once you start to know who you are, and you stop reacting to life, and you actually start embracing life, and you start learning who you are, you enjoy that time alone. You actually kind of start craving that time because now you want to learn more. You start investigating things, you start reading things, you become more open-minded to things. And the more you start to learn about yourself, the more that you learn you can give. And for me, learning to give to others and to share my gifts with others only helps establish who I am more and brings me so much more joy than any of the times that I spent going to ladies' nights with people and places that I don't even remember now. They're like a big blur, like you said, it's like one big night. Those people in those places, I can't even remember. But I'll tell you what, when you give of yourself and you make a difference in someone else's life, you remember those because you define yourself, but you help someone else too. So I would recommend that if you're trying to find out who you are and what to do next, find something that you would get joy from helping someone. Go to a food shelter or go to a pet shelter or go to a Kiwanis club and help at Pancake Day or whatever. Go to an old folks home and visit with some people. They're a wealth of knowledge. Take some time to, enjoy a hobby or just read something that's outside of what you normally would. Learn a new topic, because anything that you do that brings you closer to who you are and into alignment of yourself is so meaningful, and it avoids the escapisms.
What great questions. Yes, finding meaning in life is very, very important. I found that when my life was in that negative state, it was the most selfish I've ever been, because it was all about me. It was all about my story. It was all about this happened to me, or they did this to me, or the witnesses did this to me, me. But when you learn to give, when you learn that what Cindy spoke of, adding value to the lives of other people, will add tremendous value to you. And you will find that when you give in the way she spoke of, that you are as big a beneficiary as the person you actually helped, for what it gives you and the feeling that you get from that. So don't belittle that. Don't look over that. Trust me, you'll remember every single incident. Every time I give back, I remember that. I can't remember a lot of the things that I've done when I was just in that state of being reactive or using escapisms to deal with things I didn't want to feel. So thank you for that. Awesome. Dean, what you got for us?
I had a discussion. I just want to chat first about alcohol. It seems that everybody's got that kind of as the thing, the tool of choice. And I was sitting with my therapist the other day, and she said to me, and I think it's a very, very good analogy, that drinking alcohol's is borrowing from tomorrow's happiness. And the more you drink, the further into the future you go. And suddenly you realize that you've run up a massive debt, and the consequences come back to you. And I think one of the biggest things that to turn that on its head, and what I've been trying to do sort of recently with a certain amount of success, probably about 80-90% success, is to say, what's the life that I want in the future? And then what are the small steps I need to do to get to that life? And then when you do those small actions every day, and you may not get to do everything, but you do something towards a future life, it's almost like you're saving into the future. And when you get to tomorrow, you go, well, great, I'm building today for what I can do tomorrow. I'm setting up tomorrow for more success in the future. And I think one of the other things that maybe, what you called it, the things that we use for escapisms. And I know that I did that, and it worked for me until it didn't work anymore. And that was, in a relationship, you tend to go with the flow of where your partner wants to go, but you don't really have a life. You have a life, but your life is so intertwined with your partner's life that you kind of just going with, yeah, that's a great idea, but there's no real direction for you. And then suddenly when something happens, that partner's no longer there, as in my case now, it's, well, what do I want my life to be? And you kind of sitting with this void because you're going, how do I create meaningful life? Because you've had these disappointments. And that's why, getting back to the point, I know we had some discussion after the last session, last week, I think it was, about going into that silence. And I think one of the things that I've discovered with not using the escapisms now is that I'm almost sitting, there's like a tingling in my body at the moment, because there's so much possibility, but there's also so much, it feels like fear, but I don't think it is. And I think it's just you feeling life for the first time because you haven't numbed yourself. And when you start feeling, it's amazing, because solutions will start coming to you and you're going, where are these thoughts coming from? Because you're alive once again. There's a side of you that you've allowed to speak to you. And so, yeah, I think and it's a very scary process, because you're kind of going, I'm not used to this, because you've pushed it down for so long. And now when it suddenly comes up, the easiest thing is to say, okay, how do I hide it away again? Because I can't take that. And I think it's just to allow that flow of who you actually are come out, because your heart's going to know really what it is. And I think that's one of those thoughts, what is it? Don't trust the heart. And that's what we're told constantly. And it's not. That's exactly what you got to trust.
Great share. Great share. Yes, we must come to know ourselves. Getting lost in somebody else is a huge problem. And again, a lot of people just go from relationship to relationship, getting defined by the person that they get in a relationship with no definition of self. And whenever you do that, you'll feel like you're starting over from scratch every time a relationship ends. Get clarity on yourself. You can't choose the right person if you don't know who you are. You'll just grasp and open the door up to the person that keeps knocking, right? Or somebody that you find maybe a physical attraction to, but it has nothing to do with your true resonance. And you're actually going backwards when you do that. You're starting over again, but you're going backwards. A couple of years went by again, and you're starting all over again. No, get to know you. A good relationship is two people sharing themselves, right? Not one person losing themselves in a relationship, just needing to be in one, just to be in one. All right. Anybody else want to share? Gary?
Yeah, so we're free. One of our favorite words as post JWs is freedom, freedom, freedom. We just use that all the time. We're free at last. On the other hand, if we have come to depend upon an addictive drug or a bottle of alcohol, we're not free. We just have a new master, a new God. We worship at the feet of a bottle of bourbon or whatever our drink of choice is. Same with risky sex that becomes addictive, or an addiction to gambling. Not talking about buying a lottery ticket once in a while, but becoming addicted or becoming a workaholic. We're not free. We just have a new master. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. It's a new God, a new master that we must obey.
Very true. And a new problem,
Yeah.
right? So trying to get over a new problem. Here's the thing about escapisms. This is the way our mind works. Is we create neural pathways in our brain to pleasure. And when we have created an addictive behavior, and addiction is a big word, right? Because someone can be really chemically addicted, like you have actual withdrawals from getting over something, or it could just be your go-to, right? Where you go to it even though it's detrimental to you. But what happens is you are telling your mind that at this threshold of pain, this is what you do to numb it. And when you create that neural pathway, then it becomes harder to get over because your brain wants to go to that thing when you feel a certain way, right? And I'll tell you how true this is because at the end of my marriage, I used to just go out and drink a lot just because my marriage was awful. I didn't want to be a witness. I didn't want to be married. I didn't know how to get out of it. And literally years later, I would say I've been divorced maybe 3 or 4 years at this point. And I had an argument with my ex-wife, and I felt the feeling that I felt when I was married for the first time in a long time. Like that frustration. Oh my God, that voice, what she's saying, that whole angst that comes up. Oh my, I wanted to go to a bar. Like I had the most unbelievable compulsion to go drink in the middle of the day, because I had created that neural pathway that says at this level of frustration, when I feel like this, numb it. It's a physical thing. And you don't want to create a life where you're just creating that neural pathway where it's just a freeway. So if you are having a problem with drugs in this way or alcohol in this way, or even sex is the same thing. It's a validation, right? Sometimes you can feel so rejected by people that the validation from someone from the opposite sex feels good, right? I know that was my thing at one point where I was on these dating sites because I felt so bad about my life that I needed this validation from women. And that can become its own kind of thing in your life. But what's it doing when you're sharing an energy that should be shared? It should be something special, but you're just sharing it with random people. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help you at all. It hurts you. So understand these things about life, that you're making a problem bigger if you don't just get to the source of it. Cut it. Gary said free. That's what free is when you cut it, where things no longer affect you. My ex-wife could do anything today. Affect me. I'm not even the same person. She ain't even talking to me if I'm talking to her. She's not talking to me. She's talking to somebody from 15 years ago. Not talking to me. Doesn't affect me in the slightest. Witnesses don't affect me in the slightest. When I see them at their cards, I don't get triggered. That has been cut. Freedom is when you cut the line, not when you're responding to it. So now that I've created other neural pathways that say, you know what, man, you're feeling a certain way. You need to go read. You're feeling a certain way. You need to go exercise, go for a run, you need to go to the gym. See, I've created new neural pathways. When I feel frustrated, I do other things, not detrimental things, because I realize you get out of the stupor, you go and drink, you get out of the stupor, same problem sitting right there. The problem is just like, oh, you're back. Here I am. Hasn't gone anywhere. Any other shares? Cindy?
When I think about what you and Gary were speaking about and freedom and things that kind of keep us tied to the past, that kind of feed into that need for escapism, is something that I find a lot of people when they first leave do a lot of, and that is burying themselves in all of the information that they can find out about what the organization is still doing. And instead of moving their life forward and helping them find that new path that they want, it kind of keeps them tied down to the same organization having power over them, just in a different way. And when you continue to watch those videos, or you continue to refer to the same titles that they put on us when you're talking about them or interacting with them, it only creates more frustration. And the more frustration and the more you hold on to what they're doing or what they did, the more you're going to find yourself looking for that escapism. So you have to cut that tie. You have to let go of that. Let go of what they did to you. Remember the things that you did learn. There's always something good that we learn from the situation. Like you, Rodney, I really liked the morality that I was taught. That is something that I have always held on to. And my compassion for people of all races and cultures, because I wasn't taught to hate other people of different races and cultures. So those were good things that I learned by being a Jehovah's Witness. So acknowledge the good things, forget the bad things, and just focus on finding your alignment. Because then, as long as you're focused on your alignment and what works for you, the less you'll need the escapisms.
Yes.
And the more you'll look for what makes you who you are.
Thank you. You know, there's a season to watch all those videos. If you're just waking up, you need to go through it. You need to like put a fork in the religion. So there's a season that, yeah, go for it. Go down the rabbit hole and go deep, right? But at some point, you've got to say, listen, my focus has to be on where I'm going, not where I was, right? Your focus has to be on the things you can control. You know, Janelle, when she mentioned that earlier, she can't control her family, but she can sure enough control becoming an awesome ballroom dancer if she wants to, right? That's in her control. Her family's not in her control. So know what you can control and focus on the things within your control. Let go of the things you can't control, because you'll just make yourself crazy trying to control people in circumstances you can't. It's like someone who has zero power, zero influence. And I've had these discussions many times, like, I'm going after the Watchtower. I'm going after them. Who are you? They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Yeah.
You're working at Walmart and you're going after the witnesses. Don't waste your time. Focus on your growth and where you're going, right? Now, some people are naturally wired to be activists. I get that. And if that's how you're naturally wired, go for it, right? But for most people, you're just reacting because you're mad and your life is going nowhere. And a decade will go by and you'll be in exactly the same place and you'll be blaming the witnesses. No, that was on you. That last 10 years, that was on you because you did nothing. Take responsibility of your life. No one gets to walk planet Earth in fairness. This is not a planet that's even built on being fair. It's a planet built on being challenging. You're going to go through challenges. What do you do about it? Life is 10% what happens to you, 90% what you do about it. And with that, we're going to end this broadcast. This was wonderful, y'all. Good subject matter, good participation. Again, thank you all for joining us when you can every week. It really, really helps to have a really, really engaged panel. But with that, enjoy your weekend. It's Sunday Fun Day. Go out there and have some fun. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.